Welcome back to On This Date. On This Date is a channel where I will discuss past and present murders, disappearances, or anything true crime related. And today I want to talk to you about a case for a missing girl named Kirsten Bruggeman. She was born May 10th, 1994, to parents Lisa and Rex Bruggeman. She lived in the northeast side of Indianapolis, Indiana. And Kirsten was described as loving, very kind towards animals, kind of always bringing in a stray cat or a stray dog. And where her mom was kind of opposed to this, she loved doing it. And then she kind of would just let Kirsten have the animal, anyways. So Kirsten was described also as stubborn. And this is kind of funny because her mom, Lisa, jokes in a interview that I've seen that from day one that Kirsten was stubborn. She ended up turning and was breech, and they had a hard time getting her from the day she was born. So she makes a joke that from then she knew she would be stubborn. And as Kirsten developed into a teenager, her stubbornness and rebellious ways would come through. And so during high school, she would fluctuate with grades. And Lisa was describing her kind of like if she was super into something, she would be all in it. But when she really wasn't wanting to do it, then she just didn't. But she ended up graduating with honors actually from her high school. So through this time, while she was in high school, she was dating a boy named Eddie. And this relationship would last about 10 years to the point of when Kirsten goes missing at the age of 26. So her and Eddie essentially are on and off for these 10 years. And even after they break up, they still get together once a week just to hang out and catch up, I guess. So they have kind of formed like just like a lifetime bond, I guess, if you will. So this kind of leads us up to the night of the disappearance of Kirsten, because on January 1st, 2021, Kirsten would call up Eddie and she wanted to go out to this local bar. I believe it's Manelys Irish Mutt. And they wanted to meet up. And I believe Eddie and a couple of his friends, and then Kirsten. So as Kirsten set off that night in an Uber, she arrived and she met Eddie and the friends of the bar. Now, I seen where on this night, Lisa, her mother, was actually supposed to pick her up from a shift at a pizzeria. And by like midnight, she wasn't hearing anything from her. She kind of worried about her, but she let it go. And I think, and this is my opinion and just kind of what I've gathered from what Lisa has said about Kirsten, um, she was very secretive with her friends and her kind of her life. And also, this is something that I want to bring up, and I don't want to, we're not like shaming the victim. And I say victim because obviously, most likely, and in my opinion, Kirsten did not disappear just on her own free will, right? Um, they had a kind of, I guess, touchy relationship when it came to Kirsten's privacy. And a lot of this came from an addiction that to alcoholism or and this stemmed from Kirsten's alcoholism. Unfortunately, Kirsten was an alcoholic and had followed in her father's footsteps, which her father actually does get sober, and that's amazing for him, and congrats to Rex, and that's awesome. So as Rex could see the pattern that Kirsten was taking, obviously he didn't want her to do this, and he would try to stress like, why would you want to follow in my footsteps? Why, you see me struggle with it, why would you want to do it? And of course, being defensive. And when you're in that state of mind, you don't take it like they're trying to help. You take it like you're automatically defensive, right? So when Lisa and Rex would try to confront Kirsten with this and try to kind of like their own way of intervening, it would immediately spark an argument. So I think that Of course, Lisa now maybe regrets it, or however, I think that it's a really hard. She's 26 years old, and so she has a right to that privacy, right? Um, it's just unfortunate because it didn't help the situation, because trying to figure out things when you don't know the little details maybe can help. But I get where Lisa's coming from, because when it becomes so hostile in your home, and you've went through addiction with your husband already, and you can kind of see the writing on the walls, it becomes extremely frustrating, and you want them to change. But when you have any kind of addiction, you're not going to change until you're willing to change. But as a loved one, you want that person to change. So it became a constant, like a back and forth with them, right? So anytime anything was brought up, it was touchy. So I think that's kind of like why the secretive stuff was going on. But anyways, so that night, Kirsten never calls her, and Lisa kind of lays awake, tossing and turning, wondering like what's going on. And I will put up surveillance footage here, but after Kirsten gets kicked out of the bar, I see that reported some places. And so again, I'm just going off of things that I find on the internet and my research. Whether they got kicked out or not, they end up in the parking lot, and in that footage you'll see them in the parking lot and then them leave Kirsten. So that is number one of the surveillance that is picked up of Kirsten that we have right now, right? So then after that, she ends up leaving on foot from that bar, where she is then picked up on surveillance at the YMCA parking lot. And it'll be speculated later, why when they're trying to figure out these answers, why was she headed that direction? Because Eddie did live around the area, but like I think it's 3 buildings, I believe I seen. And Kirsten, the last known footage of her from that YMCA parking lot shows her walking a different direction than Eddie's house where he shared with his mother. Um, Unfortunately, and this is probably like, it's like we see this all too often, right? We have surveillance of someone that's missing. The police, the detective, they retain the surveillance, and there's a glitch on it, or it wasn't working, or it really wasn't a surveillance footage that recorded any information, right? So the detective gets this footage, and from I believe it was 12, after 12, when Kirsten left the bar, and then she was like picked up on surveillance, and from like 12:48 she's then seen again in the camera footage. And then the camera jumps to like 1:45, I believe, and you'll see the timestamp in the video as well, and I will put that up if I didn't already play that through before, all the way to that point where you can see that the surveillance just cuts off, right? So their point, when the surveillance hits at 2 a.m., it then skips to 2:30 a.m. And of course, Kirsten is in that footage, right? So there's a whole half-hour time discrepancy just short out of this footage. So now you have nothing. When the camera comes back on, there's no more Kirsten. You have lost such valuable pieces of information, possibly a license plate. Did you see someone walk up and approach her? Did you see somebody drive up and approach her? Um, it's so unfortunate. It just, I can't even imagine her family. And I have children. So I can imagine mine goes missing, and then I find their surveillance footage, and then there's a glitch in the footage. Like, surveillance and video footage is an amazing, amazing tool to help find somebody. And you thought you had it, and it's just gone. So it's really heartbreaking. And what I was thinking while researching this, and I didn't see, actually, there wasn't a whole lot to go off of. And I'll get a little bit more into that just in one second. But um, I didn't see, like, what about the other surrounding businesses? What about any other spot besides like that little square of area we see? Did there's not like ring doorbells? I know that the police did go out and canvass. So these Abbey Meadow apartments that sit in, you'll see in the footage, there'll be like apartments that sit back behind the lot, kind of, right? And the detective ends up seeing an SUV at this point. And right around where that camera footage of Kirsten is, and then kind of like the lapse, and we don't see anything, there is an SUV. And it kind of pulls past that area, and then again is seen later entering those Abbey Meadow apartments. And these apartments are not a good neighborhood. And this is a problem when detectives try to get leads through just being like boots on the ground and trying to get personal eyewitnesses. They run into this problem because the actual people that live in this apartment don't want to cooperate with police. It's a crime-ridden neighborhood, and they're probably afraid if they speak, they're going to be hurt or retaliated against in some kind of ways, right? So they did not want to speak. And again, like, be a human being. And if you've seen something, then call in anonymously. Like, I just don't get that. I don't know how people sleep at night knowing something. And we see it every single day with these crime stories, right? We see where they will come out later in life, or someone did know and didn't say anything. It's like, I just don't get it. I really don't. Like, if you knew something, you could have saved so much pain and heartbreak of family, of loved ones, of resources to help other victims. It's truly tragic. But they end up kind of looking into this SUV theory, and when they do, a FBI agent that was tasked to help them also said, "Hey, I recognize that SUV. It's in one of the cases I have." And this, I believe, was a homicide of, and then there was just other crimes going on there, like a bank robber. There was just, I don't know, that whole area was not a good spot for a young lady to be walking around at night after being intoxicated, being upset. And if we're being honest, and again, in my opinion, and I've tried to keep it out of this one for the most part. Shame on whoever she was with. I don't care if you get into an argument. Like, if they're friends, or it's her boyfriend she met up with, don't just assume she got an Uber or mom picked her up. Like, you should have checked in. And I don't mean to like shame Eddie, because if Eddie has nothing to do with it, then you know, he's just as much as, a victim in all this, right? He's lost someone he's cared about. Whether or not they fought back and forth in high school is irrelevant. Um, so I just have a hard time sitting with that. Like, can we just use that for future references? Like, if you go out with your friends, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your such and such, and you guys get into an argument and you've both been drinking, do not just leave that other person left alone. And I don't care if you're a woman and the male. Now, obviously, if it's an abusive situation, then that's a different situation in itself. I'm talking about if you guys have like a bickering back and forth argument, um, or you're fighting over something stupid, still make sure that other person gets home. If you're fighting with your friends, we've seen it with Brittany Drexel. They literally were fighting over shorts, and now Brittany's gone, all because just, I don't know. I just feel like when you're young, you don't see the danger as much in real life. But I really would hope that through all these cases that we learn. And if we have kids, I have kids, but if you have kids, you teach them to if you go out with somebody or if you see a stranger and they're drunk in the parking lot, like where was anybody else? If there's somebody drunk, help them. And if you don't want to put yourself in that situation and let them into your own vehicle, then call them an Uber. Tell someone who works at the bar. Let it be known that this person is intoxicated out in a parking lot and has no way to get home. And even if they drove, they shouldn't be driving. And I'm just going to say this, call the cops on them, because anymore, these people that just wander off, that have had too much to drink, end up missing and never to be seen again, all because they just went out to have fun, had too much to drink, and either met with foul play or stumbled into water, fell, died, whatever the situation is. You know what? I hate to say call the cops on somebody, but if you've tried everything and they're just refusing, or this, that, and the other, I don't know. There's just got to be something. Call an officer and say, hey, can you please help this person home? This way it's on record. This way it's on camera. We know this person got home safely. I don't know. I wouldn't have left somebody drunk in a parking lot that supposedly or reportedly had vomited because she was that intoxicated. I just, it doesn't sit good with me. And I'm sure it doesn't with Lisa, Rex, and probably half the world. But again, sometimes we're all not like me and like suspicious of the world or cautious of the world. So maybe as a young kid, you let your guard down. And I know how I put myself in not great situations growing up, right? Um, so again, we're not blaming Eddie, because at the end of the day, unless he has something to do with it, but we don't know that. And so we're not blaming Eddie, but I hope we can take that as like a learning lesson. Please, if you go out with somebody, if you just see a stranger that needs help, please get them help. Don't let them wander off drunk. That is somebody's child. That could be somebody's parent. Please just get them help, please. And so after this, when the footage glitches and there is no more sign of Kirsten, there has never been a sign of Kirsten. I just cannot understand how people are literally like just picked off the earth, gone in a split second. And then the glitch of the video, it's insane to me how somebody knows something, right? Please come forward, call an anonymous tip. This family has barely anything to work with. And I did see where there was like a visual for Kirsten, and they did this that way that they can draw some media attention and get people looking for her. Because again, I haven't seen much reported. And so that's why we want to report on these, the ones that you don't really see too much of, and get her name out there. Like, you cannot tell me that this just beautiful young lady just vanished. And I say that, but we cover it here. I watch it. We consume it. We see it every day. I post missing persons every Sunday, and it just always seems like the list is getting longer. The victims are just younger. They're older. It's just en masse. It's insane. And I feel like, again, let's please watch out for each other. If you see something, who cares if you look a little crazy? It is so much better just to say, hey, I don't think the situation's right. Can we check this out? Who cares if they're like, yeah, that was nothing. Like, if you don't feel right about it, say something. If you see somebody, help them, please. That's all. And if you know any information where Kirsten is at, anything at all that will help bring her back home to this family, please. I'm going to leave. I'm going to look at my laptop so that way we can make sure we give everything properly to the information. I will link it or put it in the description down below. That way you guys can even follow her case, follow her family, go support them, write kind comments. I always say that. The Jeff Anderson case is another one that The family has been so wonderful and what they're going through. And it's just the little love and support, nice comments. If you have nothing else to give at the end of the day, right? It takes 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Please go check Kirsten Bruggeman story out. Support her family. Share this. You never know who is watching it. Kirsten can be out there. Maybe she's not in a good situation. You know, maybe she's scared to come home. Maybe she sees this and realizes that people are looking for her. And we're going to hope that Kirsten is happy and everything is good, and that Kirsten will see this, see all the other things that her parents have been putting out there for her, and her parents are literally the sweetest. And I just hope that they are able to get the answers. So I'm going to leave the information down below, and I'm going to also say it here. And so anyone with information about the disappearance of Kirsten Bruggeman is asked to contact the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department's Missing Persons Unit at area code 317-327-6160 or online at missingpersons@indy.gov. Please, again, go support the family, follow, share my videos, like and subscribe so we can do this for other victims. We can get their names out, and even small creators like myself. Every video, every word of mouth, just you looking at her picture and being familiar with what does Kirsten look like. We don't know. She could be in your state. She could be your neighbor. Maybe you haven't seen it. Maybe your neighbors haven't seen it. Maybe somebody at your kid's school. Just please, if you're local to that area, just keep an eye out for her. You got her back home to her family. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.